How's it going, summoners, and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. Some of you might have been wondering why we put mages so high on our tier list for the Dragon Lane. So for today we're going to talk about how you counter the meta and why those mages are so annoying to deal with when you're playing an AD carry. Ready? Then let's just go. We start with the Dragon Lane incident. What happened down there that AD carries just vanished specifically in pro play in the Dragon Lane? As you know, camera management, positioning and mobility play a huge factor as a carry. The more threats the enemy team has, the riskier it gets to stand still and deal damage. It's not easy to readjust your camera every single second, and therefore it appears very easy to die as an AD carry. Once you get too close, even for just a brief moment, you're going to get punished for it. With some general information out of the way, let's move over to how you make AD carries tilt easily. Just pick a mage. Don't get me wrong, AD carry against AD carry is completely fine, but one thing typical AD carries don't have access to is the ability to clear waves indefinitely. Whatever they do, they usually need to put themselves into a risky spot to get those minions killed, and whenever they're left alone they can be abused almost instantly. Having that happen to you is a massive tilter. Losing the wave and your life at the same time sends almost everyone over the edge. So what about being able to completely void any strong side Dragon Lane in the game? And all you have to do for that is pick a top rated mage. Do you need some more information for that? No problem, that's why we're here for you. In the early stages of the game, a mage is still not functional in terms of having enough damage to deal with typical AD carries. Consequently, you have to play around a bit more reserved until you either get access to all your abilities or get the chance to reset for an item. The moment you purchase a lost chapter while being level 3 or higher, the game starts to turn into a vivid nightmare for most enemy AD carries. Now if I asked you, would you be able to tell me why that is? Any idea? Then let's solve the riddle for you. Mages grossly outrange AD carries and are on average easier to play. One class primarily plays around longer cooldowns and influences an entire area, whereas the other class focuses on single target damage while their main limiter is attack speed. So how does an AD carry kill a mage unless he's able to force the mage into a close range 1v1 all in? And more importantly, how do we get into those close range quarters without being heavily poked out? You see, it's not quite easy to get there. Luckily for you though, there are answers when it comes to dealing with mages in the Dragon Lane as well. Two champions immediately come to mind who have similar traits: Corki and Varus. Both of those can deal pretty well with waves, can survive any matchup and may influence the fight later on from a high distance. They're also quite versatile in the way they can be played. Corki is a flexible pick for multiple lanes and Varus isn't locked into going lethality. Into tanky compositions, the Varus can just build AP items and literally one-shot the tanks, through Gargoyle cause it doesn't matter how much HP they have. And before we continue with the video, let's take a small break for a question of the day. Who is the most annoying champion to face in the Dragon Lane and why? Let me know in the comments below. Next up we have something that a lot of you will love to hear about. A champion that is able to deal with Zed in the middle lane. Due to Zed's rise in popularity, that is something that you're going to need in the future. Otherwise you'll be in for some very bad experiences because Zed isn't really the most balanced champion. From levels 1 to 4 he might not be the most annoying champion to deal with, however on his level 5 power spike he turns into an absolute monstrosity. Before that, and especially on level 1 and level 2, he's quite weak. If you have a champion that can capitalize on that, make sure to use that window. Diana on the other hand is a bit special. She is a champion that provides tankiness, burst and DPS at the same time. And not only that, she's also able to buy free items Zed absolutely hates. Number 1, plated steel caps, number 2, stasis, and number 3, crystalline reflector. Now combine all of those items with the raw HP of a Rod of Ages and a second ability shield. You might already get the feeling why it's so annoying for the Zed to deal with the Diana. Another thing the Zed has to be very careful of is the fact that he can never just ult the Diana. If she times it right, she can immediately greet him with a decently charged up ultimate of her own, and then he's tagged by the moonlight. Briefly CC'd and escaping becomes quite annoying. You'll even be happier to hear that Diana as a champion massively outperforms Zed in teamfight situations as well as in a 1v1 side lane vacuum. The only problematic part for Diana is though that if she gets attacked while side laning, it's not as easy for her to escape. Zed can just walk it off and abuse the power of his shadows and Yumu's Ghostblade. Diana has to enter her deathmatch and hope that she's the one winning it. Next up comes something that a lot of mages in the mid lane struggle with. And no, it's not Zed, even though it would be technically true. To annoy most of the mages in the mid lane, all you have to do is pick a bruiser that features gap closes, wave clear and targeted lockdown. With the bruisers being as durable as they are, mages will find it rather hard to push them out of lane. Especially in the early game, things look kind of dire as those bruisers are too tanky while being able to clear the wave with their cleaving auto attacks. Don't forget guys, priority in the mid lane matters a lot as most plays can be initiated from that lane. It is also significantly easier to rotate to the other lanes rather than trying to kill the enemy 1v1 on your own lane. Mid lane has just this weird thing that most people always sit around it, and the moment you step up forward, 19 people and their families try to jump you. And then once you've died, it's almost game for you. The next issue that comes up with those bruisers is their access to itemization that allows them to gain damage and tankiness at the same time. They have high base damage and any point of HP gained adds extra strength to their kit, whereas mages usually take a bit longer to scale up. Given the HP of bruisers is just so much harder to deal with them than dealing with AD carries. The worst thing is they have access to the Gargoyle enchant, which turns them into unkillable demons, just when you're about to blast them with your cooldowns. After telling you how to annoy mages on mid lane, it's now time for something else. How do we deal with bruisers in the mid lane and what can we do against them? And here we have two mid lane bullies for you, Akshan and Lucian. Both of those champions feature incredible laning power that almost always guarantees them agency. They also have something that normal mages don't have, a lot of attack damage, and especially those two have something even better. A neat passive and spells that are literally designed to crush your opponent in a 1v1. Lucian may carefully aim his first ability on the wave and enemy alike, whereas Akshan can fish for hits with his first ability. Upon hitting either of those or having an enemy walk too close to you, it's time for some fun. They cannot ever walk up to you unless they have any kind of support with or behind them. Therefore it's completely up to you to punish them for their weak champion choice. Even though Akshan was nerfed recently, he is still an absolute absurd champion for solo queue. He can win any lane and move to all lanes in stealth. And if that wasn't enough already, what about being able to revive your teammates? And I'll be really honest here, I legit let teammates of mine die so I could just get those extra 100 gold on top of solo XP. A lot of people will hate me for this, but well, winning is cool and having more gold on a carry champion including levels is quite the broken thing. For laning you also want to max a specific skill, your third ability. This swing is absolutely unbalanced and deals way too much damage. People will not see it coming and literally die under their tower without any counterplay. I love it and I love Akshan. Be that as it may, there are still things you have to keep in mind when you're playing this. You're in absolute need of good vision in order to play your matchup to its fullest extent. Slacking with it or placing it suboptimally will get you killed, and that's a promise. Create yourself a safe side to play towards to and constantly hover there. The thing you want the least is getting surprised by an enemy jungler who steals away your life, agency and chances of winning. Be aware of what is happening around you and the threats that might get you killed. Whatever you do though, never be scared. Try to be as cold and calculated as possible even if your jungler is about to run it down again. Playing a matchup will make things really easy, and even if your jungle decides to run it down and have some unfortunate encounter with the enemy team, you can still fix it. And here's some extra advice for Akshan. On Akshan for example, you don't need to skill your second ability until you really need and want to. Putting another point in your third ability on level 3 grants you so much more damage. I have tested both builds, be it a first ability max or a third ability max, and let me tell you this. Maxing the third ability as fast as possible with an extra point in it on level 3 is going to get you so many kills. Please abuse it. Last but not least, we have another gem for you. Fiora's days of terror are numbered. Not only did she receive a massive nerf on his second ability, no, there's something even worse. The release and buff of Jayce and Grace still being playable in the Baron lane. Both of those champions can easily take care of Fiora. Especially since Fiora mains are so used to bullying people on level 1, it's quite easy to rob them of the delusion that they can do this to every champion in the game. Graves has to be a bit mindful of not letting Fiora lunge into him while he's still behind minions. If that happens, he'll be unable to trade back as its shots cannot pass through minions. Level 2 onwards, he has to also be careful of not shooting everything he has into the parry. But don't worry, after getting in your first reset, you're going to hard stomp the Fiora with absolute ease. Now let's talk about this matchup from Jayce's perspective. Level 1, you should position yourself slightly outside of minions or ideally deny the Fiora entry to the lane. When she tries to lunge at you, use a ranged auto attack and your first ability into her. Afterwards swap into the melee form and jump her. She cannot outtrade you, it's not possible. And then it's up to you to keep up the pressure. You need to be very mindful though not to blow your cooldowns into a parry similar to Graves. Especially when you jump her, don't use your third ability instantly, be patient. If she blocks it with a riposte, you're most likely going to die. Play it slow, abuse your strength, and never give her any room to recover. Keep up the pressure, and she'll never be able to recover unless she's given a lot of help. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you liked it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You're also more than welcome to check out our Patreon. See you soon for more guides, content, and everything Rift Guides.